Dr. Kushner, the AP is now reporting that the first plane may have been hijacked after takeoff from Boston. It's 9:42 for those of you who are joining us now and looking at this eerie and ominous sight of the two towers of the World Trade Center engulfed in smoke, black smoke billowing. This is not a joke. This is very real, what's happening here.
Is Nina Pineda standing by at Broadway and Chambers, I believe. Nina?
Steve, and we were just moved back about 3 blocks. We were right near the World Trade Center when police in riot gear practically started pushing the crowd back and screaming there is going to be another explosion. They were having reports that there was another plane in the air. It was truly a scene of chaos and panic as they tried to move the crowds back. People have been crying in the streets. There are no phone services down here. People cannot use their cell phones. They can't use their walkie-talkies. There's lines about 20 people long trying to use the telephone to reach loved ones. Some people are trying to reach loved ones that worked in the World Trade, but right now we have people crouching behind cars, police trying desperately to move the crowd back. They moved the crowd back quickly, about 4 or 5 blocks, screaming that there was going to be another explosion. Right now they say their concern is that another plane was in the air. That's what they were being told here on the ground, or that pieces of the World Trade Center were going to begin falling. And from what we see, we are seeing big chunks of the building fall to the ground, and also some horrible, horrible and terrifying witness accounts from people here that saw bodies falling from the building. They said that one gentleman said he saw 4 or 5 bodies falling from the top stories of the World Trade Center, and several people that gave us witness accounts were crying their eyes out, saying it's been terrifying to see the first one, and then they were all watching and saw the second plane impact the second tower. Right now we are still at West Broadway and Chambers as police have formed a line to keep the crowd back, but there is truly a scene of chaos here on the ground as folks are looking in the air afraid for another impact.
We've had an incident, as you know, in the past, several years ago, where a small aircraft landed in the White House garden, and the pilot, mentally deranged, as I recall at the time, was killed. But the White House is certainly been very heavily defended, and this plane circling the White House adds to the trauma that people are feeling today, but we have no idea precisely what that means. John Miller, you're listening.
The scene is still in some degree of chaos, but the police have set up a major mobilization point just outside the building, and they've set up a tactical mobilization point. The major mobilization point is for the responding units involved in the rescue. The tactical one is actually an armed mobilization point for security outside the World Trade Center.
Dr. Kushner, I don't know if you saw that video of this.
I did see the video.
Did you see the video of the second?
Yes, I did.
Obviously flying low, obviously a big-sized plane that hit into the second tower. From your perspective, sir, does this look intentional?
Nobody has any indications of exactly what happened, but it appears that there has been some kind of, it felt like a small blast of some kind. Again, the windows shook, the building shook, the windows rattled, and people, if I'm looking out the window now, and the construction workers are still keeping a good, the construction workers are still keeping a distance. That's all I can see, and I see no other extracurricular security activity right outside. But to get more information, I'm going to have to break away and walk down the hallway and see what it is exactly that happened here just a few moments ago.
Now, again, we don't know exactly what happened here at the Pentagon, but you can see the result of whatever it was near the area of the heliport is lots of billowing smoke, dark smoke, and workers reported hearing something and then feeling the area rumble.
What do you hear, Tom?
That's where they did construction.
There is construction work
there,
going on there.
We don't know what is the cause of this smoke, but we are keeping you updated on this story, and of course the breaking story in New York where
any legitimate aircraft can be controlled totally through the FAA and the various control centers and towers. However, a hijacked aircraft that is under control of...
I want to interrupt you for just a minute. The White House is being evacuated. That comes to us from one of our Fox producers in Washington. The White House is being evacuated. The Pentagon as well. It should be noted that there are sharpshooters on the roof of the White House who have anti-aircraft missiles for just this kind of situation, but the White House is being evacuated.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're looking at live pictures of the Pentagon where there is billowing smoke. Jim Miklashevsky just reported that he heard an explosion, and right now we're looking at an aerial view of the Pentagon. Mick, can you talk to us?
Officially, nobody knows exactly what happened. I think the picture is pretty clear. According to one U.S. Army officer who went running past me at a full trot, he said that it appears that a bomb was detonated at the heliport.
I don't want to incite any undue panic, but there is a report only, of another aircraft that has crashed on Interstate 395, one of the main routes in Washington, D.C. Now, that is only a report at this point, but given the pictures you're seeing on your screen right now, anything is possible.
We have an eyewitness from our own staff. Hey, kid, how you doing?
Hi, Jim. I was in my apartment. I live on the 36th floor at 59th Street in Columbus, and I have a clear view of downtown, and I can see the towers. And I was in my living room. I was getting dressed to rush in here, and I saw one tower. It had all the smoke. And then I saw another plane that was really close, and it went behind, and you can see it doing a turn. It was turning its wings, and it went around, and then I saw it go into the other tower, and I saw a big pool of flames just come out, and there was a big explosion. I didn't hear anything, because I'm at 59th Street, but you could see it, and there were flames, and there was so much smoke, and you can see that it was an entire different building. But I saw it was a different plane.
So two different planes.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the White House. Claire Shipman is on the phone. Claire, what's that we're looking at?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out right now. All we know is it's a gigantic plume of smoke coming from behind the old executive office building, and we're told that the White House itself, the West Wing, at the very least is being evacuated, that our personnel from there are being asked to leave. We've sent people running over there to try to find out what it is, but we don't know yet.
Now, the old executive office building is slightly to the west and a fraction to the south. So we are looking southwest from a camera just across Lafayette Park, which is north of the White House. The White House is to the left side, out of your picture. Maybe even the cameraman could give us some appreciation. But you have no idea, was that an explosion? Did you hear anything?
We did not hear it. In fact, we were trying to figure out from the White House what security precautions they were taking around the White House in the wake of the apparent attacks on the World Trade Center.
Now, when you left your building, you went downstairs to come in here. What kind of a reaction did you encounter on the streets? Were people aware of it? Were people frightened by it?
Absolutely, people are aware of it. I mean, just walking here, I was hearing people saying, it was one plane, it was two planes, and everyone was hearing sirens. And people, I know people were trying to use their cell phones. No one could get a cell out. And my taxi driver was talking about it. And he had the radio up, and when we would stop, he would put his window down and tell the other guy. So everybody knows about it, I think, at this point, and they're talking about it.
We just got word that from the Associated Press that it's pretty sure now that one of those planes, the first one to hit, was hijacked after takeoff from Boston. So that word we have just in, the first plane that hit the World Trade Center, the North Tower, was hijacked en route from Boston, and presumably that's a commercial jet, and there were people on board as well. So this is nothing but a terrible tragedy. I'm sorry for interrupting you, Deb.
Chris Plant, a CNN producer, is at the Pentagon, where there is a significant fire. Chris, you're on the phone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Tell me what you know.
Well, arriving at the Pentagon a short time ago, there was a huge plume of smoke which continues to rise from the west side of the Pentagon over in the area where there is a helicopter landing zone. It's along Route 27 if you're looking at maps of the area. The building is currently being evacuated, and police and emergency units are, of course, responding from all around the building and from the local Arlington County Fire Department. The plume of smoke is enormous. It's a couple of 100 yards across. At its base, it is billowing into the sky hundreds of yards. It's impossible for me to say from this side of the building whether the building itself is on fire or up in flames, or exactly what caused this. I did not hear an explosion, but there is certainly a very, very significant fire in this enormous office building on the west front.
I can just say that that plane that I saw, the second plane, that was definitely a larger plane. I can't say which kind, but that was not a small plane. That was definitely a large plane.
So the first one was large enough, and the second one was much larger.
Well, I didn't see the first one. I can just vouch for the one I saw, and that one was certainly a large plane.
David Asman is joining us from Fox Central. David, what do you have?
John, we are hearing right now of another explosion that has taken place at the Pentagon. We have the heart of the financial district of America being attacked. Now we understand that there is an explosion, there has been an explosion in the Pentagon, the heart of the military command center of the United States of America, John. It can't get much worse than this, let's hope.
Let's hope.
When you saw the plane, though, did you get a sense that it was heading directly for the building?
You know, when I saw it, I was thinking, gosh, that's really low. I thought it was part of the, of the recovery effort. And then I saw it, make a turn, and I was wondering what it would be doing, but then I saw it come around and hit the other side, and then huge flames, huge flames.
Deb, I'm going to have to interrupt you, I'm afraid. But the dimensions of this catastrophe are growing. We are told now that this is not quite confirmed yet, but we are told fairly reliably that a plane has crashed into the Pentagon.
On the left is the Pentagon, and on the right is the World Trade Center, where reports now from AP say that one of the two planes that crashed into the World Trade Center towers was hijacked after takeoff.
President Bush has called the World Trade Center explosions apparent terrorist attacks.
I worked at the Pentagon as well, and it is a huge building. I mean, it's miles and miles of offices. At what location did this seem to have detonated?
It's at the heliport.
I must also tell you, Claire, I think if you think about what's behind the EOB there, you're really down in pretty open area. It doesn't look like a place where a building would be on fire.
No, that's right, although there are a number of buildings just behind the old executive office building on G Street that could potentially be on fire, but nothing you would necessarily think of as a target. Apparently, we're also...
Claire, let me interrupt you for a second. We now have fire confirmed at the Pentagon.
Now we're hearing that the Associated Press is quoting witnesses as saying it was an aircraft that crashed into the Pentagon. And that is what we're looking at right now from Arlington, Virginia. Our Gannett cam looking at this huge, billowing, dark smoke. A plane.
So we got two planes that plowed into the World Trade Center up in New York. Now we've got a plane that plowed into the Pentagon here in Arlington. Stay with us. We're going to get you more information just as soon as we can.
As you sit in the Pentagon, you have the Potomac River and Washington, D.C. on one side, and the heliport is located almost exactly on the opposite side of the building, along one of the highways. Easily accessible, even though that they've increased security here significantly at the Pentagon within the past couple of years. That area...
You, Mick, that we are hearing, again, unconfirmed reports that this was the result of a plane crashing in the area as well.
I have no idea, Katie. All I know is that people who were in the building who came running from that part of the building thought it was a bomb of some kind.
And we understand that there's a bomb at a heliport. You're listening to Brian Gumbel with CBS News as you look at pictures, live pictures from Washington, D.C.
John McCarthy at the Pentagon can hear me. John, please get in touch immediately if you can and brief us in there. John McCarthy has actually been evacuated from the Pentagon.
That would be right next to Interstate 395, so that report, the Pentagon is next to I-395, one of the main commuter highways in and out of Washington, D.C. So, David, that would fit in with this report that we had earlier.
We must, as we've said before, not only have we not heard that a city is under a lockdown, but we must say we've seen schools under siege. We must say now that we are a nation under siege.